Welcome back to The Change Physician. I am Melissa Katie, the Challenge Doctor, with my co-host from the West Coast, Dr. Kevin Cuccaro. And the Saturday Salutations, this is our first 2024 version because it's been a few weeks, Kevin, since we've chatted. In fact, we gave our audience some great gift ideas. Actually, I remembered I forgot one when we had to redo it because we got cut off by our recording on Facebook. But we're finally back to say hello to the world. But this Saturday Salutations is just to share what's been going on in the podcast or any other events or any thoughts or current events or anything we want to share. And any questions that people send to us, we like to definitely address those. So welcome to 2024, Kevin.
Yeah, and it's been interesting, I gotta say. I it kind of crept up out of nowhere, I think, is kind of the feeling I got.
Holidays flew.
Holidays flew, we had a bunch of stuff going on, and yeah, it was crazy. Now I'm just trying to figure out how do I post stuff on Facebook because I haven't done it in so long.
That tells you
Like,
something.
yeah.
So I'm one thing that's coming up here in the Central Texas area is literally none of 20, like as far as this fall, winter, what we don't really have real seasons here. Um, this is going to be our first freeze coming up. So,
You haven't
uh,
gotten one yet? You're not in
no.
the whole of this big thingy that we're doing right now?
Well, we're about to have some freezing weather tomorrow. We thought it was going to start Monday, and then now it's creeping in a little sooner Sunday. And then it said there's no precipitation on Monday, and now it's saying 50%, and who knows if it's changed in the last hour. But so the whole protect your plants, pets, pipes, and people, I guess would be another P. Um, so yeah, this is going to be an interesting time. We never know how it's really going to pan out because our predictions are not always perfect. So seeing that we had all that crisis with our energy grid in over the last couple years, and another winter storm, ice storm after that, like we'll just have to see how this plays out. So what's it
Well, I'm
like
sure
up there?
I was gonna say, I'm sure they've updated your grid in Texas by now. They have
I
nothing
hope they
else that they're.
winterized it. I mean, I don't know. What about
uh,
you guys? Is it super cold? I haven't looked at
it's
your
got it's
part of the country.
cold. It's really cold for us.
Okay.
It's like what is it, right? 22 degrees, which is cold for us in
Hmm.
2023 right now. And it was supposed to start. There's the big warning, the snowpocalypse. Well, not snowpocalypse, but everybody gets all in a big old tizzy about it, and it makes sense because we get like half an inch and it shuts the entire town down. But it hit probably later last night. We didn't get as much snow as I was expecting, but it has been cold and I'd say the precipitation is weird. Like
Hmm.
we're getting like I don't know, it's weird. Like so it's not like snow and it's not like hail. It's like this weird we get a little bit of snow and then I think it must have rained and then earlier today it was like literally
Sleet?
rocks. Like well, sleet would turn to water when it hits the ground
Yeah.
and it didn't. I mean, it's like ice rocks, and then people, well, is
Oh,
that hail? It's not really hail. It's like literally just little itty bitty,
it's like
nasty,
it's
not snow.
it's
It's
like instead of your ice dispenser, you get full ice cubes. You're getting crushed ice.
yeah, it's basically like a crushed ice. I mean, it sounds like rain when it hits the skylight, but it's not. And so we have a little bit. The roads, I'm sure, are icy. I don't like to drive anywhere here, particularly when it's like this, because it's an absolute nightmare. So we're just hanging tight. But this is supposed to go through at least today, and then we'll see what tomorrow brings. But
Yeah, I'm actually looking up the definition of sleep because I don't know if I've used it wrong. Partly
oh,
melted falling snow
yeah,
or hail.
yeah, we
But
we
it
we
says
looked it up this morning because it's like because you have freezing rain, right? It's rain that freezes when it hits, and then you have sleet, which is like snow. Then it hits and it sort of melts, and then hail is this large clunks of stuff. But this is literally, I mean, just like little teeny little rocks, pebbles, rock pebbles. Like, nah, it's
Well,
if you
it's like one definition says a form of precipitation consisting of ice pellets, often mixed with rain or snow.
for sleet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a poor definition because sleet is generally wetter. You know, I don't know.
Interesting.
Well, you're bound in Texas. You don't know what all this stuff is.
So this, well, the meaning, well, we get some sleep, but the meaning of, and then another one, depending on which dictionary, rain that freezes or partly freezes as it falls from the sky. That's
Slush.
very,
Sleet. See, I think slush when it's sleety. That's probably the easiest way because it's kind of the wet,
sleety.
sloppy
I
stuff,
like,
and
I
it.
like that descriptive word, sleety.
Yeah. So anyway, it's
Yeah,
been
crazy weather.
interesting. Crazy weather.
Yeah.
We'll see. Should be. Hopefully,
Yeah.
you guys don't get anything too bad since you've been. Was last year bad? I remember it was 2 years ago. You had
I
this
I feel
snowpocalypse
like the
thing.
last few years have blurred, but
Okay,
I feel like 21 was the big
the big bad. Yeah,
snowpocalypse.
that was
And
a big one.
then 22, is it 22 or 23? No, I can't remember. It was 21, 22 for the snowpocalypse, and then 22 or I think it was 23, like early 23, we had the big ice the big ice situation that broke a ton of branches. Yeah, I think it
Mm-hmm.
was this past, yeah, early 23, because I had to get, even though I we had a whole bunch of tree areas that were lining our property, and we cleaned it up. And then of course the year later we have this big, which thank God I actually did that too, because it would have been a nightmare. But because of all the ice, it split my tree in half, my
Mm-hmm.
big oak tree.
Yeah.
It landed on my driveway. So I could barely get out. I couldn't really get out. But yeah, then I had to pay for someone else to come. There's no way I was going to get a chainsaw and hurt myself with that big trunk.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, that's why I'm curious how this is going to turn out. But no one's going to really care unless you're dealing with this. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go into detail. But yeah, I hope that people are safe.
Yeah.
But
So
there's a
well,
go ahead.
I was gonna push on ahead. I was gonna say
Go
so
ahead.
because it's been so long. Like, so how was your holiday since it has
Holidays
been?
were quiet and nice, a little bit of travel. Nothing crazy. I didn't, stayed in Texas. Um, so nothing really to report there. I did go for the first time. A girlfriend of mine invited me to go see Pentatonics.
Oh, pentatonics. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a really cool. My favorite was it Sugar Plum Fairy from Nutcracker? They did a duet, these two guys. One was like beatboxing and playing an electric like bass or cello, and the other was doing drums and singing and beatbox. Um, it was probably the most incredible performance of that whole night, but it was the first half was good. Second half was just like rock star, but I think the peak of it was when they did the Sugar Plum Fairy. Um, that was really entertaining.
Very
So
cool.
yeah, it was in Austin. So it's first time I've been to the Moody Theater, Moody Center, because there's a couple Moody places. I've been to the Moody Live, which is a smaller, more intimate venue. I
Hmm.
saw Michael Franti in live in concert there. But this Moody Center is where they did the Pentatonics thing. So yeah,
Cool.
that's the most exciting thing. What about you?
The actual holidays. It's been 4 weeks, I guess, since we talked. So we did something completely different this year. It's been kind of interesting because I growing up, I had a very traditional like Christmas. I knew exactly what I was doing Christmas Eve. I knew exactly what I was doing Christmas Day, like forever. And then when my mother-in-law moved here, we tried to take her to my house once, and it was a disaster because she had some dementia, and then she had the sun moonlight, the adjusting period when she came back, and we're never doing that again. So we have just literally hung out locally pretty much, and we do different things on Christmas Day, but we always had to be here. And then my
Hmm.
mother-in-law passed in the summertime, so we're like, well, let's do something different, and we decided. Well, I decided really it was me. I'm like, I want to go to Vancouver. I want to go to Vancouver,
Oh
Canada.
yeah,
I've been wanting to
I
do
want
it for a long
to.
time. I've only been to the airport a bunch of times, and I'm like, I want to go to Vancouver. And so we went and stayed there for 5 nights. And my wife's cousin's family was up there with us, and it was a ball. Like it was fun. So we went there from the 21st through the 26th. Stayed in the middle of Vancouver, and just basically walked all over the place. Drove one day to Whistler, which originally I wasn't. I was like, I don't want to spend my time driving. Like I would rather. This just seems like crazy, and it's winter. but there was no snow at Whistler, so there wasn't a ton of people. In the drive, the Sea to Sky Highway is unbelievable. Like it
Mm.
was just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, we live in a beautiful place. Like Oregon is gorgeous.
Uh-huh.
And then you get up into the Puget Sound area, and that's really, really nice. But I mean, I love the Pacific Northwest. Vancouver is stupid beautiful. Like it's ridiculous. Like places should not be this beautiful. It was crazy beautiful. Like just with, I don't know, it was amazing. And then the other thing was the people there were like amazing. The service, like the restaurants, was the food was good. Everywhere we went, the food was good. Some places were really good. The
Mm.
service in the restaurants were excellent. The hotel we stayed at, which of course was a Marriott for us, were fantastic.
Hmm.
Like I don't know if people traveling the last probably year or two, we we're going a lot of places, and it always seems I always feel like I'm having to fight for things. Like as you know, if you have a loyalty program, you're supposed to get your entitlements, what you're entitled for being loyal. And I always feel like I'm having to bug them to actually get the stuff that I'm supposed to get, which is annoying. Like I don't
Mm.
like that. Like as a traveler, I don't, it sours the experience for me.
Sure.
And but everybody there was so nice, and they're like, oh, do you need this, do you need, they just went above and beyond
Wow.
everything. In the restaurants, I don't know if you've ever been in a restaurant, sometimes I'm like, oh sorry, I'm asking, can I get my food, or oh, I'm sorry, but can I get the bill? I mean, you're always like, sometimes you just feel like you're
Yeah, you're
inconveniencing the
inconveniencing.
servers, and
Yeah.
then they want you to tip some ungodly amount. So cool up there, like everybody was super super cool. And yeah, it was fantastic. So that was Christmas.
That's awesome. When you first started talking, I thought you were saying Vancouver, Washington, and I was like, oh no, you're talking about Canada.
No, I'm sure there's nothing. I've been to Vancouver, Washington. I'm sure, it's nice. I'm not necessarily want to stay there for
Yeah.
Christmas, but Vancouver, Canada. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a metropolitan city. The funny thing is you drove into it. That's the bad thing is the traffic sucked. The traffic getting out was worse to go through the border. And I made a huge screw up because we have global entry, and I didn't realize we could have used global entry to get
Oh,
through the
really?
next
By
lane.
car you can?
Yes, as long as you have your physical card with you, you can use
Oh,
the next Nexus lane or
nice.
whatever.
Okay.
I did not. I was stupid and didn't even check. That was so dumb. And
Wow.
like an hour
That's good
waiting
to
for that.
know.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah, because Corey and I could like, fly to Seattle and do a little drive up to Vancouver.
Oh yeah. And the Canadian border is easy. It was coming back that was a problem. Like
Yeah.
because I know the U.S. border is always a pain in the ass. Um. But it's Vancouver feels more metropolitan than Seattle does.
Hmm.
Like I mean, we're like downtown. It just seems more metropolitan, like a New York kind of a thing. Not, not as big as New York, obviously,
Yeah.
but it's only half the size by population as Seattle.
Mm.
So, really, really kind of interesting. And, you're all condensed in there and you're walking around. It was great. Yeah, anyway. So I would
So does
highly
it,
like recommend it.
so does it feel like kind of like it's a more relaxing environment, less stress, pressure, motion, like American motion kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily feel like a whole lot of motion in the US per se.
Well, you also
Um,
live in you don't live right in the middle of
Well,
downtown,
I guess, yeah,
right?
I
The
guess when I'm
city.
driving in the city, I
Yeah.
feel the pressure, and I hate that.
Yeah.
And I would probably, and when we were driving there, we just literally drove in, parked the cars, and until we drove out to go when we drove to Whistler,
Mm.
and that was not a lot of cars. That was a fine drive.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, that pressure stuff, I don't like driving around in cities, period. But the
yeah.
just walking around was pretty relaxed as long as you like the one thing I was pretty anal about was like I'm like we need reservation. I want to make sure we have reservations because there's
Mm.
8 of us and that's always a pain
Oh,
to get seated. So I'm sure I drove my
yeah.
travel partner is crazy, but I'm like we got to have reservations. Like I want reservations because I'm not gonna like weasel our way in or squeeze in and do all this stuff. I don't like that.
Yeah.
It makes it not fun. Um, but what was super interesting was on Christmas Day, there
Uh-huh.
were so many people out, like all over the place, like
Mm.
everywhere there was people. I'm glad we had reservations that way too.
Yeah.
But and there's a lot of immigrants. So, we were just kind of talking about that, like how many there's the local people coming out, and there's a lot of immigrants that may in their cultures not necessarily celebrate Christmas per se, but really really busy, and everybody's just walking around the city. Um, yeah, I loved it. It's like I want to go back in the summer or in the late fall where we can get into, because we didn't even hit Stanley Park really. We didn't hit God, there was so much stuff we didn't even get to. But anyway, so that was that day. And then
Yeah.
we came back and that weekend, so we got back on the 26th, which is midweek. And then of course, again, because of all my stupid little credits travel stuff, I had a free night I had to use up.
Mm.
So I reserved a night at the Nines, which is a nice hotel in Portland, and then I had another credit on another credit card. So I'm like, let me try this thing out, and I booked another night at the Nines. So I had two separate reservations because I was using two different kind of things. And then we went to we went to the Nines for the 30th through the 1st, and we had been to that hotel when we had just before we moved to Portland, and it used to be the nicest hotel in Portland. Now there's a Ritz-Carlton here that just opened up, but when we first went there, it was okay. So this was like 12 years ago, 13 years ago, but the decor was like kind of fancy but weird, like not comfortable decor. Like the rooms were, and then we also had two little kids, so that may have had something to do with it. But we went just the two of us, and I was like, man, this place is awesome. Like the food was good. We had great service. Again, I was like, what is going on? This is just insane. Um, we went out the first night. We had a really nice dinner up in the. We didn't. I tried to get reservations, couldn't get them because it was full. But we had like this really great dinner with a tasting menu, and then had a great breakfast, and then we walked all over the city the next day. We walked like almost 6 miles, and then we went and met some friends. And we were supposed to go back to the hotel, but then we went to their place and hung out with them till I was not expecting to make it to midnight because I haven't made it to midnight for like 5 years. And
Wow.
the next thing I know, one of our friends is like, "Oh, it's almost it's 11:59." I'm like, "Holy crap! I can't believe it. We were just been talking and laughing the whole time."
That's
So
not a
that
bad
was really fun. And then last, I mean, just to bear this is my wife has she has Hashimoto's, and Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and so she first noticed like symptoms with her thyroid about 5 years ago, and then over the last couple of years, like most Hashimoto's either burns out, but hers she got a goiter with it,
mm.
and we're both physicians, and I'm like, well, I'm not real big into surgery, period. And having been in thyroids, they're kind of freaky. Like
Hmm.
if they go right, that's great. If they go wrong, it's not good.
Yeah.
Um, so we weren't looking, and I don't know. And then finally, she's like, "Well, maybe I'll look at getting it removed because it's starting to get really annoying for her." So she found a surgeon in November and really liked her. Like, and I really like the surgeon because she's like totally old school. I mean, if you call your patients really late at night because you just want to check up on them and talk about things, that automatically in this world where most of our healthcare sucks so bad, I was like, okay, I like this lady.
Yeah.
But you'll love this.
Mm.
The health system, being the bright eyes and brilliant minds in the C suites, decided that they didn't like the anesthesia group that they were with for 22 years
Mm.
and decided to go find a private equity group because, oh, they're so good. Got in a tiff, fired the entire group. This is literally a group that's been with them for 22 years. So then the surgeon calls us like, we don't have any anesthesia. I don't know how many millions of dollars this has cost their health system
The entire
because of,
country.
because of their stupidity on this stuff, because they wanted to get care that is not as good as what they had, like literally. And I'm sure, then someone didn't want to back. Oh, we're gonna show those doctors what we're gonna do. And long story short, they had an opening on last Thursday. So my wife gets a call like the week before. So just before we stay at the Nines, like, hey, we can fit you on Thursday. So she's like, I'll do it. I'm like, okay, well, this is good because it's gonna get done with the surgeon that we want. But this anesthesia thing is really like concerning to me. and you're trying to do this thing. I'm sure most physicians, you know what I'm talking about, is like you're trying to do this thing. We're trying to be very super observant and trying to be very vigilant and trying to protect your loved ones. At the same time, you don't want to disrupt the rhythm. Like you don't want to disrupt the rhythm of the OR. Every OR has a rhythm to it.
Yeah.
There's a flow, and when it's broken, it's not good. But anyway, and then I'm also trying not to freak anybody out because my wife's not an anesthesiologist, and I'm like trying to make sure it's all. Long story short, I kept having discussions with everybody coming in because they're now going with care model, blah blah blah. So I talked to the anesthesiologist, and I talked to the nurse anesthetist, I talked to the surgeon, and I'm like, you guys need to communicate. This is I know you're all new to each other, but you need to talk because I want to make sure that there's, this is obviously my spouse and blah blah blah. Oh yeah, 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 they'll be fine. So luckily, I mean, everything went really smooth and the
Oh,
surgery went
good.
fine and she's doing okay. But man, and I was so good when I was so glad when it was done because it's
Oh,
so stressful. It's
oh,
so stressful. Um,
yeah.
and it took them about 3 hours. Just, I mean, for the not door to door, but literally the surgical time from incision to close was a little over 3 hours. So
Hmm.
it was yeah. Anyway, but it's done now.
Wow.
So that was my 4 weeks.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Just jam packed. My
jam
goodness.
packed.
Yeah, that whole thing that if you're not a if you've never really been a patient as a provider or you just I mean it's a weird combination of um I was talking to another actually a CRNA about when you really care, well, first of all, it shows, like you said, calling after hours and actually demonstrating that care or concern. Um, but it's like you want someone who's skilled, but you also want someone, who cares and then cares enough to like overcome maybe that weird nuance of three different entities in the operating room together and like bridging with communication. Like having all those things like happening, like the perfect kind of, I don't want to call it storm, perfect, like good thing. Um, that's as a patient, not knowing if all of those things are aligned from all angles is if you're not in the medical system, you don't know these people that you have to understand if you're a physician or a provider that there's all these like nuances playing in
Well,
that.
and that's the frustrating thing about healthcare in general is like we as physicians, it is still a nightmare to navigate this process.
Yes.
And in even knowing what to look for,
Hmm.
there's sometimes you just can't find the information that you want. Like I couldn't find who was going to be involved. I didn't know the group until the day of who came in, and then I looked them up and was like, oh my god, I probably shouldn't even look this up because these guys suck. But I mean, come on, private equity, these fucking assholes.
I know. I
Um,
know. It's funny you bring this up because I had a particular person in the medical field ask me about who was going to provide the anesthesia for that person because I have some, inside connections. I'm being very vague here on purpose, but it's it's really hard to structure or delegate someone and trust into a system that's already got an anesthesia care team model that has certain schedules with certain people. You can't just be like, oh, this person just pop in and do my case. Like that's not how it usually runs with a lot of these models or business models.
mm,
Um, and yeah, that's it's very, even for someone who's in the medical system, helping someone else in the medical system, it's not always as easy as you'd think.
well, yeah. So
Yeah,
it
and
comes
who's credentialed at which
who,
facilities, who's
yeah,
allowed at that facility.
it is insane. It is just crazy. So
Yeah.
the main, just stay out of it. Like stay healthy,
Stay, stay as
and
healthy as
don't go in.
possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do whatever you can to stay away from that
Yeah.
freaking thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Most people are going to try to do right by you and take care of you, but there is always a percentage of people um, that you they may not be the ideal candidate or the
well, and
ideal combination.
not even the ideal combination, but the system is getting in such a way that is structured against the people trying to do the right thing.
Hmm.
And that's the thing.
It pushes us out.
It pushes
Hello.
the good doctors out. It pushes it. I was talking to the surgeon, and I mean, she's there late, and I appreciate that, but she really should be able to spend time with her family. She'd have a system that's set up in such a way, and then I'm like, well, how much has her income been hit because of these jerk offs deciding this stuff? Um, because I don't know if she's salaried or not, but I'm sure that, well, it's, the executives, I'm sure, are getting their little bonuses and stuff, but the docs in the trenches who are working on production and trying to do good work because these people think it's going to save them and make more money for them, are getting hurt. And then, so, you have relationships with people that you know and trust for 20 years to do surgeries so that they run like clockwork, and all of that's gone because some
Mhm.
jackass in the C-suite was like, oh, I went to some conference and some Lean Sigma Six idiot got on the thing and said, look at our models, and we can hire these guys who are raping the system for every penny that it can, and they'll save us whatever. And it probably won't come to pass now because that's the other thing, they lie. But yeah. Anyway, I'll quit my diatribe. It's
Well, I mean,
my first thing of the year, so I got to get at least one of my healthcare
got to get
diatribes.
something positive now.
Yeah. Well, okay, positive stuff. So the one other interesting thing about the first of the year, and I'm a little discombobulated, is I try around the first to do kind of planning
Hmm.
where I sit down and you kind of do your goal setting stuff. And I've been doing that. I started that probably about 15 years ago, got off track for a little while, and then the last 5 I've been doing it, and I kind of go through my notes and stuff. But I didn't get a chance to do that until this last Monday, I think. I finally sat down, so I feel a little weird and delayed. Um, but I was looking over that stuff and then trying to anticipate what the next year was. Yeah, do you goal setting or anything like that?
Yeah, I kind of
Yeah,
have like a general like some general goals, and a lot of times are physical or mental kind of stuff. Um, and then I kind of for this year, I think the whole month of January it's going to take for me to kind of like get clarity on stuff because that's where I struggle is getting that clarity on things.
and
Otherwise
that's hard.
it is because you can't drive forward with a lot of like it's funny. You can be like a little Tasmanian devil, kind of like just going just in circles and working your, rear end off and just like go, 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 great work ethic. But if you pick the wrong thing without clarity, then did you waste your time? Like, was that really the thing to do? You know, other than
Yeah,
reinforce your work ethic?
yeah. Yeah, when I hear that we're wasted time, I think wasted time. If you're doing something, I'm never actually positive you're actually wasting time. Like I'm really good at wasting time is because I just spin my wheels and like fill, what are they, dead time where it's like
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah.
That I think is wasted. A lot of times wasted time. But um, I think if you're trying to do something, and actually this, when you actually are spinning your wheels and then you discover that perhaps it wasn't the right thing, I still think that is actually productive. So I if you can see, I write this stuff out. Last year I did it on index cards and put it in. This is a planner that my son got me last year, and I really really liked it. It's
Hmm.
from Muji, and it's got calendars and weekly calendars. And of course, started off really really strong, and then had a couple of events that occur that kind of derailed me on some of them. Um, but it was funny because I was looking through this stuff, and I'm like, okay, where did we go really well if I didn't look at my goals? And the one that I feel have felt the best about for 2023 is my health goal.
Mm.
Like I have been really consistent now for years. And then I had that my kettlebell program. And then I think I talked about I switched programs after 2.5 years in the summertime. And I'm doing this one now that it feels even simpler than my other one, which was only 2 exercises. This is still technically 2 exercises, but it feels like one.
Hmm.
And man, I feel like I have not felt this strong in like
That's great.
since I was 18. Like it's just
Wow.
awesome. And
That's a good
uh
feeling.
yeah, it's really good. But then I looked at my health goals and I'm like, holy crap, I didn't make any of these.
Ah.
Like because I had all this extra stuff in here. And then a couple of them I actually stopped. Like I intentionally stopped them. Um and then other ones I was like, oh, but it would just kind of remind me is like you can still set goals and you may not achieve them, but you actually may feel really good in that particular domain.
Right.
But
Right.
the
Well,
one
yeah.
I always, huh?
No,
Nope.
go ahead.
I was gonna say the one I that clarity one that I still struggle on is kind of that the personal one. Um, like the health is really easy because I just have some step things I want to do, some benchmarks I want to do. The wealth one is maybe I need to do more about that, but most of ours just says max all this stuff and it becomes out of sight. Like I don't even once you set it up so you don't see it, there's no friction involved anymore, so it just happens. But the personal one, like the finding habits or finding new hobbies and stuff, that one,
Mhm.
man, that is really, really hard. And I've
Yeah.
been trying to do that for a couple years now. And the clarity there is I don't know if it's been super good. Last year was good because I tried some stuff. I didn't stay with them, but I did not stay with them intentionally because I had some realizations. So I was like, you do it and then you
Trial.
realize as you're doing it, oh, I need to kind of revamp that stuff. Because a year ago, I was really interested in wing foiling,
Yeah.
and I tried it, and uh, went twice and actually took some lessons and stuff, but realized relative well after the second, third, fourth day, I was did 2 weekends of it. I'm like, man, if I don't. I need access to water to do this because I'm going to need time on the water and I can't get
Yeah.
it's harder for me to
Consistency.
you can't get the consistency like it just
Yeah.
doesn't work out that well. So I had to revamp that one and
Yeah.
um, I'm still trying to find hobbies. That's
Yeah.
my goal. It's like how many but I don't have any clarity on what to try. So I'm
So
trying to structure this goal and I'm like I don't know exactly what I want to do. I know I need to do something. I really feel like I need to do something, but I don't know what I want to do.
yeah. Well, it's funny because I never thought about that question or about that until, my husband is the one asked me, so what are your hobbies years ago? And I'm like, I love to work out. I love to dance. I love to travel. He's like, those, I mean, the way dancing was just kind of like when I went with a girlfriend. I love, I'll just start moving when I hear music. I'm not the singer person. I might try to sing, but I know I'm not a great singer. Um, but I feel like I'm a pretty good dancer and I just go into dance. But Corey's like that, that's not really a hobby. You're not like they're kind of rare moments. You enjoy them, but like there's no it's kind of like what I do all the time. I dig shallow holes everywhere because I'm a curious creature and I like to learn, but there's very few like things like a true hobby it's like with some frequency or anything I dig deep into for very long other than, I've been doing podcasting with you and but it's I would consider it a little bit of a hobby because I feel like you and I both have learned, if we wanted to take a podcast to another level or do other things, other than maybe getting some marketing assistance or something, which you've learned a lot about that, we could thrive in that because we kind of have the building blocks we've kind of learned. So I feel like we have a skill, but to think, hobby wise, what it is, I have the same problem, Kevin. So, and I think there's a lot of, and we've had a couple episodes, excuse me, at least on this topic, but you just made me think, let me look up the definition just to see an activity done regularly in one's leisure time for pleasure.
So I would say this is a hobby. Like we are definitely not the business podcasters out there that have
It's a little hobby.
it's a little hobby. It's basically
Yeah.
us getting together and talking. It
Yeah.
just and that's and I think that's fun. And so I would definitely call that a hobby. But um yeah, I'm just trying to find something to do consistently. And then the other part was yeah, and as you can see, I don't even have anything on my. I have all these ideas on this thing, but I have nothing planned on my 2024 self card here. It's the only one that is pretty blank, um, which is sort of annoying. Yeah, I need to find something
Yeah. Well,
or not. Yeah, but
yeah,
yeah.
you'll find something. I actually got an email recently from a physician who's actually doing quite a bit of he's really come on strong onto this email stuff. I'll give a little shout out. Simply MD, SIMPLI MD. anyway, he's putting out a lot of good like long blogs on like email newsletters and stuff. And um he mentioned the whole thing about SMART goals. Once you figure out what you want, if you get clarity on that, doing the SMART goals of specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Um, and he just started making me, when I read that email this morning, made me start thinking about um, just trying to hash out these goals. So because of our conversation right now, I'm doing a reminder card for the goals for hobby, wealth, health,
And there's
relationships.
yeah, there's so many. So I just got another one. Big Think is a I follow them, and because I think they get people that I generally like, and they have little quick interviews and stuff. But Big Think sent this one, and was a what do they call it? Life strategy. Strategic thinking for the life you want. And it was basically like these Bain consultants that were applying the principles they use when they're going in for strategic consulting, and they kind of have this thing that they do for individuals. So I printed that all out and started doing it, and then I'm like, okay, this is too complicated for me. I mean, I'll send it to you though, because I think
Okay.
it has some good processes, but um, I definitely need to focus on like three or four things, not seven or 10. Like they're looking at more, I don't know. They had all these different domains, and then they have this matrix, and you grade all this stuff. And I'm like, that's just, I don't need to do all that stuff. But the
Hmm.
thought exercise is pretty good.
Hmm.
And at least kind of gives you a framework to kind of at least think about this stuff and rate it. Because the other thing was interesting is I did rate some of my domains, and I was like, oh, these are actually a lot better than they used to be. Um, which was nice. Like when
Hmm.
you know 0 to 10, and how much do you feel you're like where you are right now? And in most of them, um, I'm the type of person who doesn't rank anything a 10.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not me. So sevens were
A
pretty
lot of
good.
physicians.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some people 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 1. It's like, well, you're probably a little, I don't want to, anyway, you're between the spectrums there, right? You're either all positive or not. You're one or
Yeah.
the other. That's definitely not me, but it was just kind of interesting because some of them are like, oh yeah, I was struggling on that like a couple years ago. Now this is really going really, really well. But yeah.
Yeah. It's funny when you said the scale thing. I'm like, oh, if you're really self-deprecating and really hard on yourself, you never give yourself 10. But if you're kind of like a people pleaser and like surveying a survey given to you and you want to make them happy, like do you give them all like, the highest score? It's interesting.
That's so hard, right? Because you get these surveys, and because the way the surveys are structured, if you don't give people a 5, then it's bad. And I'm like, realistically,
There's room for
if it's
improvement.
yeah 0 to 5, everybody shouldn't be getting 5s. Everybody shouldn't be getting 10s. It makes it worthless. In which case you're on a binary scale. It's basically 10s or 5s, whatever the highest number is, and everything else.
What
And
about
that's not
letters of
useful.
recommendation for friend colleagues to get
I
a
still don't
job?
agree with that, to put 10 out of 10 on
I
all
mean,
that stuff.
if you think they're, competent, communicate, like I tend to give fives if I think they're really good
Yeah,
or
well,
good.
I actually just did that. I had a letter recommendation I wrote yesterday, and
But if I cringe and like, do I really want to write there? Then it's not gonna be all fives. But if I'm like, yeah, I'll write you a letter, it's usually because I'm like, I'll just give you all fives.
yeah.
I don't want any flags going up for them. They have to go through too many things in the system already.
Yeah, that's
Anyway,
true. That's true. But
I think
but
it
when
just
you're
all
like restaurant
depends.
ratings and all these other ratings, and then they're all 5s and 5s and 5s, and then it gets completely all crazy.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
who really
Everything
looks
can't be
at
a
them?
5.
Are they going to really pay attention either?
I look at the reviews a lot now.
Well, I mean,
For
I guess is it just like one of those things, checklists for someone to get credentialed, or is it, you're trying to improve someone's service or product and it might be different.
well, I don't. I think that when it comes to the age of social media, and so the downside is everybody wants to do 5s. The advantage of it though is it really being able to have this aggregate of ratings has is it makes thinking or filtering easier, or it should. Like you can put on a product. I usually put, and I know they can game it, but if you get thousands and thousands of people, it becomes harder and harder to game the ratings. So if I'm looking at something, I will typically filter 4 stars and above. I'll look at the newest reviews. I'll look at the most critical reviews, and it gives me a really, really quick indication of what I should be expecting with this stuff. So yeah, I guess I do it, but I just get mad when everybody's rating 5 on everything. When it's Burger King, it's not 5. I don't care what you say. It's Burger King. Uh,
Understandable.
yeah,
Well, you know, I'm trying to think of anything else you want to add to our positive things before my dog starts trying to bark a lot.
your dog starts running. Um, to our positive things. Well, I'd be kind of, well, what do you want to work on this year? What are your things that you want to work on?
Well, I have quite a few little business projects because of a new situation coming up so I have to put some energy into that, but I'll have a little bit of downtime. I think the my motto for this year is sexy and strong. So trying to feel good, look good, and it's kind of and I don't mean just strong physically, like mentally too. And that means coming with some clarity. And some of that is just, there's so many of us that you become good at what you do, or you're doing a good job, or it's paying the bills, that whole golden handcuffs. Like, how much of that do I want to do? And what is the other thing that'll fill my soul that gives me a variety and an outlet for creativity other than like doing podcasts or, just sharing little messages of encouragement or inspiration or education online, which is kind of my whole challenge doctor thing. Um, so trying to get clarity on how I can create that creative outlet that maybe potentially can be another form of income as well. So you're not always trading your time for money and always having direct patient care. I do enjoy direct patient care, but what fills my soul for that portion, 2 days a week, I feel happy with that. I mean, 5 days a week can make a lot more money, but when it comes to what I need to feel like all my training has been worth it, or that I'm creating something that I feel is a little bit unique or a little bit better than what's being put out there, I think 2 days a week is good enough for me. 2 to 3 max, but
Yeah.
there's a lot more days in the week. So what do I want to fill that with? I need clarity for that. That's my goal, is get some clarity on that. And I have
Uh,
no idea how that's going to come to me.
Shoot, I can't ask you for any hints on that.
I
It's
know. Anybody have recommendations? Please shoot us an email to drkevin@thechangedphysician.com, because people always say, "Oh, whatever your goals are, this is what you do," or break them down and, okay, but what about the first part? Like, how, other than psychedelics and other things that take you into subconscious, and like something comes out of you and you have no idea where it came from because your conscious brain doesn't see it. Like, how else do you do that?
mm,
Other than we've said, just go try a bunch of things, but you have to be exposed to those things to know about those things, and they need to be convenient enough where you can do it repeatedly.
and then, oh, just try a bunch of stuff. Well, there's an inherent friction in there, unless it's literally walking out your door to do it.
Yeah.
That to okay, so behaviorally, to just try something that you're not sure you're going to want and you're already kind of stuck, that becomes very, very difficult. Like you need
Yeah.
something kind of pop you out of that rut,
Yeah.
or something that will significantly decrease the friction, like maybe getting somebody else involved, in which case then you have, I don't know, then that'd be a different thing. Like you're working on it with somebody. But yeah, it's an interesting conundrum because, as we have talked about on other episodes, I'm kind of looking at the long stream transition, right? So when my kids are done, I will probably be done, and you transition to whatever the next thing is.
Mm.
And I look at a lot of data, and the happiest people who have transitioned from their work thing, usually they have like 3+ core pursuits. They have 3 to 4 close connections. They take a couple vacations a year. They usually have an income within, I don't remember exactly what it is. And but the one, it's the stupid core pursuits. That's the one, is like I'm like, what the hell are my core pursuits? Um, I've been, I think a lot about like traveling now, and I think that's probably what the Marriott thing and points and stuff. So one of my things this year is I'm trying to figure out how to use these stupid award points like for flights,
Mm.
because there's all these travel hacker people,
Oh
and
yeah.
and it still gives me a headache at this moment in time trying to figure this stuff out, because it's like, oh my God. But that is one of my goals this year, is to actually take an award flight, like get the stuff. And As in Warfly, I want like the good. I want like business or first class. Something awesome from these stupid points because economy is easy. You can just do that. That's not a problem. But I want
Yeah.
something. I want something awesome where the flight is like this is badass.
Well, we might have to just once you like become an expert all that, we'll have to do a little mini episode on it. But I
I don't think.
personally use Capital One, by the way, has a, you can get a whole bunch of points and you get more value per dollar, obviously doing flights versus like a cash reward. That's one thing I have learned. Um, and they do have a purchase eraser. So it's like if you've already bought the flight and you didn't use your points for it, you can apply points retroactively and they'll pay off that flight with the money. But I don't know if it's one for one or if it's a better value. I think it's better to purchase the flights with the points
Mhm.
initially to get the best value.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, I've been looking at that too. So,
Yeah, it's interesting, and then balancing that becomes let's not make that a full-time job because what I've actually figured out with the Marriott stuff is because the dynamic pricing with their points and with their pricing, the it changes. So we were going to Palm Springs in February, and this is the first time I've actually followed it relatively aggressively because it was a point stay and I dropped like 27,000 points. I found a day and like dropped down, and then I screwed that. I had another whole bad thing that screwed it up, and now I'm back up to like only $7,000 or 7,000 points below it. But I've now learned to write down my reservations, and I have literally reservations booked out till like November on different places, and I will spend some time each day going through them because the points drop, the cash prices drop, everything, and then you're just like, well, why I want to spend less money on this stuff, but the flights I can't. People say you could do it with flights. That scares me too bad because I don't know. I don't want to lose the flight. It's like,
well, I had to do through Wells Fargo a credit card points purchase with a flight, and I did have to cancel. It was a big like pain in the rear end because then you get a credit only lasts for a year. You got to make sure you remember the code, or you won't be able to like actually get that money back.
mm-hmm.
So it can be complicated.
Yeah, yeah. Although I did learn, so my wife's cousin, what I learned this kind of cool thing is that if they have a bunch of points, what you can do is you can book a flight with points. How did they do it? They had some credits that were expiring, so they ended up then using those credits. How in the hell did they do this? Because I think some of our credits you wouldn't let it, but they booked the flight, and then because they booked the flight, it somehow pushes out the window. I don't know,
Oh yeah,
did something. I was like, oh, that's kind of brilliant. But now I'm like, when I've had credits, I couldn't do that because it's like you had to use the credits. The flight had to be within a certain time or something.
yeah, like within a year or something.
I don't know, whatever. Flying
Yeah.
sucks. But
Well, I'm sure it's always going to be a moving, goalpost there,
yeah,
with the
yeah.
changes. But, well, I think
You-
maybe next time we can chat about maybe some clarity on some goals or hobbies or for the beginning of the year. Maybe next time we chat. What do
That
you
sounds
think?
good. That sounds good.
Okay. Well, you want to take us out?
Sure. So thank you all for joining us for this year's first Saturday Salutations, where Melissa and I talk about in a hobbyist manner what we like, rant about the healthcare system, set some goals, and generally try to figure out some things that are more interesting in this world. If you have anything that you would like to discuss, just let us know. You can email me directly at drkevin@thechangephysician.com. And until next time, stay well.
Take care.